अस्सलाम वालेकुम, वेलकम टू बिजनेस मैटर्स और मैं हूं आपकी होस्ट मरियम अली। आज के एपिसोड में हम बात करने जा रहे हैं राइड हेलिंग के बारे में। दिस इज अ रिलेटिवली न्यू इंडस्ट्री, इट्स ओनली बीन अराउंड द कंट्री फॉर 10 years or so, लेकिन ऑलरेडी वी हैव सम न्यू एंट्रेंट्स सच एज यांगो पाकिस्तान। और आज हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में मौजूद हैं मिराज शरीफ, कंट्री हेड ऑफ यांगो पाकिस्तान। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर जॉइनिंग अस टुडे। तो शुरू करते हैं विद एन ओवरऑल जायजा ऑफ दिस स्पेस इन दिस इंडस्ट्री। मिराज, आप प्लीज़ बता सकती हैं कि यांगो की एंट्री पाकिस्तान के मार्केट में कब हुआ था?
So Yango came into Pakistan in 2023, and
जी
interestingly, it came in a political or economic scenario where everything was, too chaotic. So
जी
we launched in May, and we saw how 2023 was for Pakistan economically and
हम्म
politically. So we started off with Lahore. We started off with our taxi business, and then we moved on to launch Rawalpindi, Islamabad. A couple of months later, Faistabad, Karachi, and the latest launch that we've done last year, in fact this year, is Multan. And
हम्म
over time, we added a lot more services. So we started off with just the cars business, which
जी
was the taxi business, but then we realized that there was a need for other categories as well. So we
हम्म
launched rickshaws, we launched bikes, and over the passage of time, we've also added other categories like delivery, cargo, and a lot of other businesses. So this has been like a short span to 2 years
जी
so far with different launches at different times.
तो ऑब्वियसली जैसे आपने मेंशन किया 2023 वाज अ वेरी टमल्चुअस ईयर पॉलिटिकली एंड इकोनॉमिकली। तो अगर आप 2023 को कंपेयर करें 2024 से या 2025 के जो पहले 6 मंथ से, तो आप कंज्यूमर ट्रेंड्स में आपको क्या फ़र्क नज़र आता है? जो 2023 का जो राइड हीलिंग कस्टमर था या क्लाइंट था, उसमें क्या तब्दीलियाँ आपको नज़र आती हैं कंपेयर टू द अदर ईयर्स?
With everyone, the idea was
जी
disposable income was
जी
was was a bit a bit varied, because there were a lot of layoffs, a lot of uncertainty
हम्म
when it comes to business also. I think
हम्म
as we stepped into 2024, and even better when we step into 2025, there's a lot of uh, confidence in the business, in the market, which includes people who are doing their own business, people who are
हम्म
employees and working for different companies. So I think in that sense, the economic activity started to spur around, which basically encouraged people to go out to try new things. And for any kind of activity, economic activity, transportation is the backbone, right? So you need to
जी
travel to be able to do something. So I think with the political scenario and economic scenario sort of settling down, we saw a lot of spur, a lot of growth in the business, and of course we've been on the
हम्म
growth stage as well. But we saw how people were more and more adaptive to new technology, to new
जी
brands, and they were willing to move around, more than they were previously because they now had the means to be able to do so. So
जी
we've just seen an uphill in the last 3 years, 2 years, and we've seen great response from customers when it
तो
comes
आप ना
to the ride-hailing business.
तो आप नाजरीन को बता सकते हैं कि आपका एवरेज जो कस्टमर है उनकी उनकी क्या प्रोफाइल है, और टियर 1 सिटी में क्या प्रोफाइल है, या टियर 2 या टियर 3 सिटी में क्या प्रोफाइल है?
So when you look at the product market fit, Yango typically serves people who need to travel a lot and who
हम्म
need transportation at an economical rate. So if you look at the use cases or the kind of profiles that we typically have women, we have
जी
students, we have people who are commuting for work, so employees, and these are people who like to, so and then there are people who have different preferences. So someone wants to just avoid the traffic and get to their destination quickly, so they use bike. Then there are people who maybe want comfort, so they take comfort
हम्म
rides and they take cars. So we have students,
हम्म
employees, we have all sorts of different different kinds of profiles that are using
हम्म
different categories which suits them the best. There are people who are maybe sort of operating or living in areas where the access to car is maybe
हम्म
not that good, so that's where they take the rickshaws, and they don't want to go out and stop one from, like, they don't want
जी
to go for street hail, and that's why they use Yango to book any kind of category that they want that suits them at that particular situation. So it means that people are not just using one category. They're using a mix of
जी.
different categories depending on, what time of the day they're traveling, what is their need. They need to be, somewhere quickly, or they have time, or it's too hot. So they have all the different options. And within one profile also, we see a lot of different use cases. So the same customer, for example, who goes to the
Hmm.
office in the morning, maybe it's a mother, she takes a Yango, picks up her kids, drop them home, and then in the evening, if she has to go out to meet friends or to the market, then she uses Yango. So there are multiple use cases within the same profile also.
तो आप क्या कहेंगे कि आपका जो आपकी कंपनी का कंपैरेटिव एज क्या है? बिकॉज ऑब्वियसली ये जो कस्टमर प्रोफाइल्स हैं, दे आर ऑफन यूजिंग अदर एप्स एज वेल, अदर राइड हेलिंग एप्स, सो आपका यूनिक सेलिंग पॉइंट क्या है इस लिहाज से?
I think I will break it down into two parts. One
जी.
is the customer facing and one is the supply
हम्म.
facing. So on the customer side, I think one of the major pain points that Yango did address and has been doing so over the past 3 years or 2 years is economical transportation. So there are
जी.
a lot of different options in the market. Some of them are online, some of them are offline. So and I've said this before also, it's not like it's something completely out of the blue, but it is just more convenient, reliable, safe,
हम्म.
and economical. So all the options that you see in the market, we just amped up the value proposition in terms of safety, in terms of economy, and in terms of options. And the customer can, sort of opt it very, very, conveniently. Um,
जी.
so the idea is to not get a share of someone's disposable income because of the price,
हम्म.
but because of
हम्म.
scale. That means that you can spend much more on ride hailing or your transportation just because it is cheaper and it helps you move around more than you would previously because you have limited means or a certain budget to move around. On the
जी.
other side, on the supply side, I think one of the biggest value proposition that Yango has is its partner network, which
जी.
basically means that you are creating new businesses or new business activity into the market, which did not exist previously, or it is on top of what existed previously.
ओके.
So there's a lot of entrepreneurship. There are a lot of people who have come into business, after Yango came in. There's a lot of
हम्म.
jobs that have been generated because of the partner network. So
हम्म.
Yango enters into a market and partners with local legal entities or transporters. And these
उसकी आप
people,
कुछ मिसालें दे सकती हैं?
so Yango operates with a partner network in across Pakistan in KLI,
जी.
Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad,
जी. जी.
Faisalabad, Multan. All the offices that you see are actually
हम्म.
owned by people who are our partners. And these
गॉट इट.
partners are basically responsible for managing all of these operations, managing drivers, driver sentiment, support, finances, everything. And that's how they're earning. So every ride, they get a share of it as an earning. And in
हम्म.
turn, they basically manage all of the operations. Now, this is a completely unprecedented model. We've not seen that in any of the other players that
जी.
are there in the market or previously existed. So what this means is that Yango is a business of own, and with Yango, there are these small ecosystems that have started to spur
जी.
or come up in the cities. So yes, that's something that will
Okay.
set
So
them apart.
obviously Yango's had a experienced rapid growth and वो अब 25 cities में मौजूद है. What's been the most difficult city as a challenge to enter, and what's been, let's say, relatively smoother? उसकी आप overall कोई एक comparison दे दें.
I think every city has had their own like nuances. So I wouldn't say
जी.
that any city has been difficult per se. But yes, I can speak for Rawalpindi and Islamabad because these are twin
जी.
cities. So from an
जी.
operational standpoint, from a jurisdiction standpoint, you're basically touching different jurisdictions and regulations, so on and so forth.
जी.
For instance, people typically travel from one part of the city, cross the entire city, enter another city, and then come back, which means
Mhm.
that during the day, even though operationally, when people are driving, they don't feel so. But when it comes to the regulation part, to the taxation part, and to
Mm.
the back end, there's a lot of thing that there are a lot of things that need to be sorted out at the back end.
That's actually a
So
really
I think
interesting point. So if I was a customer or मैं इस्लामाबाद में हूँ and I want to take an hour's drive into Rawalpindi, stay there for another hour and then take a Yango back, to Islamabad. Can you actually narrate to me and let's say that, and tell me first as an example how much that ride would on average cost, and on the back end, what are the stress points for Yango?
Sure. So I'll break it down into different pieces. One
G,
is when you
G,
move from one city to the other, there is a taxation impact that comes in. So, for example,
G.
Islamabad is a zero tax jurisdiction, while
Mm-hmm.
Rawalpindi falls into Punjab and it has, a certain tax that is associated with it. So that's where, that impacts the right price because it has to be incorporated in the pricing. So that's one. Second is we typically look at the commercial activity within the two
Mm-hmm.
cities, and we see that it is highly concentrated in Islamabad, which means that in the morning, typically the demand and
Mm-hmm.
supply moves from one part of, let's say, Rawalpindi to another and then back. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the thing that we see in demand and supply. And also then there is this issue of surge where the demand is
Mm.
higher compared to supply. So there's that. And also because the supply typically lives in Rawalpindi and it has to
G.
sort of work in Islamabad. So that's what sort of, makes it slightly more complicated, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what sets, Islamabad and Rawalpindi apart from other
Got it.
cities, because in Karachi and Lahore, you see that the commercial activity is well spread out. There are commercial centers, across the city. But
Got
in
it.
Rawalpindi, Islamabad, it's very, bifurcated.
So, Miral, break से पहले आप बात कर रही थी about the regulatory hurdles specific to Pindi and Islamabad in terms of operating there. Now, जब आपने launch किया था ये company, उस वक्त on a provincial and actually federal level, what were the regulatory challenges you had to face as a company?
Actually, so far, from a government and regulatory standpoint,
जी,
I would say that there has been a lot of support
जी,
because transportation in Pakistan is a provincial matter, which means
हम्म,
that every new province or jurisdiction that you're operating in, you need to have, alliances with the authorities. And so far, in the last 2.5 years, we've seen a lot of support from not just the transport authorities, but also other related authorities. And it has been a smooth sail. They have also sort of helped us, and I'm not just talking about the
हम्म,
transportation authorities, but other authorities as well, like Safe City and all of them. I feel that they have been extremely collaborative with us, and we've also extended like a helping hand wherever
हम्म,
our help is needed. So far, I think we've seen a lot of uh, collaboration and partnership uh, with different authorities, because every authority is different in each city, and we sort of hit all of these different authorities. So in that sense, I think we've had like a really comfortable ride so far, and I'm really hopeful that it's going to be even better. I also feel that all the authorities, be it transport authority or any other, are also receptive of the feedback or the
हम्म,
input that the ride-hailing players have to bring in when it comes to regulation formation and so on and so forth. So we've had a lot of discussions for different aspects, be it EV, be it taxation, be it any other, and we feel that we've been heard. So that is really promising and comforting for a business like ride hailing for us so far.
क्या आपको लगता है is it because there've been previous ride-hailing entrants into the market कि इसकी वजह से there's been like sort of a frictionless transition? Yeah, is there something sort of, I don't know, unique? I mean, if you could explain that.
For sure. So I think it goes without saying that the players that had been in the industry before, players that sort of started the ride-hailing business in Pakistan, they've done some amazing work when it comes to regulation and regulatory framework. They've set good precedences. They've made a
Mm-hmm.
great effort in terms of developing the market from a demand, supply, and regulatory standpoint, which makes it much more easier for new entrants and recent players to come in to settle in into that mold. And wherever
Mm-hmm.
there is a slight change in the model, जैसे Yango के case में है, uh,
जी.
it gives us a good foundation to work on. So goes without saying that they've done some amazing work, and that has helped us in the seamless transition.
So that's actually a great segue because obviously अब तक we've been focusing on sort of the granular details of Yango. लेकिन अगर आप नाजरीन को एक overall जायजा दे सकती हैं of the ride hailing industry as a concept and how it sort of entered Pakistan. And obviously, you know, you've been working in this space for 2.5 years. कि जो पहले जो entrant had, what was the impact it had on, let's say, the Pakistani awam, and how did that open up space for sort of new players to compete? Ji.
Sure. So I would sort of start with a personal example. When
Ji.
ride hailing actually started in Pakistan, maybe I was in university.
Ji.
And wherever you had to go, if you had to meet friends, if you had to move from one place to the other, you had to rely on, you know, a car or someone, you know, at home coming to pick you up, which was not feasible, right? Because everyone
Ji.
was sort of have their own schedules and all. So sort of learning from that personal experience, I feel that from then to now, the idea of moving around has the stress of moving around has been eliminated. So at
Ji.
any point you need to move out, you don't need to make sure that you have the conveyance or transportation arranged beforehand. You can sort of order or arrange a service of your kind, of your choosing, at the right time. And that makes it much more easier, especially for women, where transportation is a big problem.
Ji.
It makes it easier to go out for their education, for to work. So that stress of how I'm going to be there, how I'm going to go, how I'm going to commute has been completely eliminated from you know, your life. And to add to that, of course, there is an economical or you know, monetary aspect to it, which again has been taken care of by, let's say, Yango, or there are other options as well. So that basically the two major pain points for anyone, be it a girl, be it anyone, and regardless of what they you know, what their profile is, they're a student or whatever, has been taken care of. And that in itself makes it like, it basically tells you how the country is progressing towards a more inclusive society when it comes to, you know,
Ji.
sort of also making sure that women are adding to the workforce, and they're making a mark for themselves. Students, you know, it's just easier to go to the university and so on and so forth. So I think that one major headache, how I'm going to be there, has been eliminated. And we're constantly working
Could
to
you give
make
some
sure.
metrics to sort of back that? Just an example, or just even in terms of data that you have where you can see sort of actionable change.
So even like if even if we speak about the world order right now,
Ji.
every like only 17 people out of every 1,000 people own a vehicle.
Ji.
But if you talk about how many people need to move, it's probably all thousand of those, right?
Hmm.
So that is the kind of impact that ride hailing has made over the past 10 or 11 years, where people who do not own a vehicle at all, they can move around. So you previously maybe the 17 people could move around, now all 1,000 can move around.
Got it.
So I think that is the kind of impact that ride hailing over the years has brought in Pakistan.
Now, obviously, we have to address sort of the elephant in the room. Okay, in 2015, when Careem entered, effectively for the last 10 years, उन्होंने एक quasi monopoly चला रहे थे. I mean, duopoly कह सकते हैं Uber के साथ, but not really. And then obviously, पिछले 2-3 साल में there have been new entrants in the market, and now finally Careem is actually exiting the market for a variety of reasons. First, can you talk about sort of, I mean, what is the impact that that's going to have on your company? I mean, obviously, जब आपने 2023 में शुरू किया था, or perhaps you knew or you didn't know, that you probably wouldn't have expected that in 2025 this would happen. तो उसके बारे में आप मज़ीद थोड़ा सा elaborate कर सकती हैं?
Mine, to be very honest, it is a very, very
जी.
unfortunate exit.
जी.
For all those people who have known Careem, or as I said, you know, I've been a part of the Careem journey for,
जी.
you know, when I was like really young, and that is the case with a lot of people here. So it is definitely unfortunate. But again, companies do make decisions that are strategic, and so there's that, of course. I think with Careem leaving the market, there's of course a void in the market because they were operating into different categories. They were giving different services that maybe not everyone in the
जी.
market was giving. So they had over time built a niche, especially in the B2B business. So that leaves a room or a void, not just for the customers, but also for the drivers, for the supply
जी.
side, for the vendors. So it puts a lot more responsibility on us now, with the exit to fill in the shoes and to fill in like big shoes, right?
Right.
Because they had been in the market, they've been the pioneers, goes without saying. So it does leave a void in the market and you need to fill it, but you also need to sort of fill it with a value proposition that is sustainable. So you don't want to be the next one sort of going out, right?
Right. Right.
So it gives you a lot of opportunity, but then the opportunity comes with a lot of responsibility as well.
Hmm. So आप एक
So
shift
there's
देख रही
that.
हैं in terms of the supply, in terms of drivers moving towards Yango, moving towards InDrive, or is it they are organically moving towards the company, or is the company reaching out as matter of course?
So, Amarin, the ride-hailing industry, when it comes to supply, it's
जी,
very dynamic, right? So,
right.
and there's a lot of multi-apping, which means that one driver, like it's very hard for you to pick a cohort of people who would just be working with one app, right?
Exactly. जी.
So it's impossible to say that, they were previously working with Kareem and now they've gotten to know about,
Hmm.
the other players. So they're already there. It's just that they now do not get an opportunity to work at, let's say, one player, and they
Mm-hmm.
spend more of their time in on working with other players. And how they choose which player to work for is, what maximizes their earning. So whichever platform is giving them the highest earning or opportunities to grow, or the other value additions that different players are doing in the market for them, that's their way of making a decision as to which platform they need to move on. But it's not like they're completely, sort of, they did not work for Yango or any other player,
जी.
and now they've started to work with them. But of course, there's a shift with the number of hours that they're spending at Kareem versus now
Right.
what they're spending at other players has improved. And we see the same shift in demand also. But those numbers are not too stark for us to say that, oh, the world has completely toppled over. Um,
Okay.
so so it's gradual, but it's good.
Well, I guess the reason मैं ये सवाल पूछ भी रही हूँ is because obviously globally ride hailing is an intensely competitive space to the point where companies are getting decimated over margins. और obviously आप InDrive or Yango जैसे companies के पास जो price differential है with Careem, and so there was some analysis that they were being beaten on those margins. लेकिन इसी के साथ साथ you entered in 2023, which obviously was one of the worst years that Pakistan had ever seen in terms of inflation. So how do you make sure you're competitive price-wise while also making sure that you're not getting decimated by inflation, which is the unique case of Pakistan? इस पर आप मज़ीद बात कर सकती हैं.
So what actually allows Yango to be economical compared to other
जी.
players in the market and do it sustainably is actually the company origin. So Yango
Okay.
is not a ride-hailing company. Yango is a tech company, which
Yeah.
means that its progress or its forte lies in the tech that they have, and they've built that in-house, which means um, that a lot of cost headers that hit your
Hmm.
P&L in the
जी.
business do not exist for us. Those costs do not exist for us because we've
आप
built all of
नाज़रीन को
that
थोड़ा सा बता
in-house.
सकती हैं? Obviously, just give an example of that. So what was a typical ride-hailing company have? What kind of costs they would have, or आपकी company में क्या costs are not available?
Okay, sure. So मैं बहुत basic दो costs की बात
जी जी
करूंगी. One is the dispatch cost. Let's say
जी.
when a ride is coming in and then you have to dispatch it to a partner to a driver, and the
Hmm.
other one is, let's say, maps, right? So all of the
Right.
other players are using external maps, and every
Hmm.
time you have to pay for that cost. और that cost ये मैं भी बहुत like top level दो costs बता रही हूँ. There are a lot of others. Any
जी.
modifications that you need to make in your app and so on and so forth, all of that is done in-house, which means that आपका जो P&L है, that is not cost heavy, which means that your P&L is lean, which means you can pass on that benefit to the customers and the drivers by
Hmm.
sort of keeping your costs low. Otherwise, for you to be able to maintain a sustainable self-sufficient business, you of course have to tweak the top line, right? Which is revenue. वो
Right.
कैसे होगा? वो आपकी प्राइस से होएगा या आपके स्केल से होएगा. But we are able to do so because all of the expertise that we have in-house. So that's
Hmm.
one. And this is just for ride hailing. And the other thing is Yango is an entire ecosystem. So it is actually, if you look at the different markets that it is operating in across the globe,
जी.
there are multiple Yango services that are attached in that one app, which means that one, business is sort of being built on the other one. So that's where all of the cost synergies also come in. That's where all the cost optimization, scale
Mm-hmm.
optimization also comes in, which makes Yango as an overall brand, as an overall app, much more sustainable to operate than, let's say, any other player who are maybe
Yeah.
just in one business. So these are
Thank.
the couple of things that basically make it easier for us to keep the prices low.
So Miral, आप बता सकती हैं कि जो obviously Yango Pakistan is one of many markets that Yango has entered into. इस market की unique बात क्या है? What makes this market different from other markets in terms of customers, in terms of supply, demand, in terms of even just the cities that you're operating in?
So, Mayim, I've been a part of like different
जी.
businesses so far, and I think one thing that is standard across all businesses is that Pakistan is an amazing breeding ground for any business, just by virtue of having a 240 million population.
जी.
So that in itself sort of, uh, highlights it a lot more than any of the other markets. So Pakistan typically performs great at scale. And because Pakistan generally for any business, when you
जी.
compare it with any other market, is a low order value market, right? Which means
और उसका
that
मतलब क्या है?
you
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
सो इसका मतलब ये है कि आप जब आप एवरेज ट्रिप फेयर की बात करते हैं दैट इज
जी.
वो बहुत कम है कंपेयर टू एनी अदर मार्केट। जब आप बात करते हैं कि फॉर एग्जांपल कोई डिलीवरी सर्विस है तो वो जो डिलीवरी की एक कॉस्ट है पर पर्सन वो क्या है इन पाकिस्तान वर्सेस एनी अदर मार्केट, तो उसमें बहुत डिफरेंस है। पाकिस्तान एक बहुत लो लो प्राइस्ड बिजनेस
Got it.
रन कर सकता है जनरली, but because it has a huge population, it has a huge population that is relevant to these businesses. So
Mm-hmm.
we talk about the demographics, we talk about the middle class and so on and so forth. So वहाँ पे जो breeding ground है वो
जी.
बहुत अच्छा है, which means that businesses do amazing on scale. But हाँ
Hmm.
challenge आता है जब हम bottom line की या sustainability की बात करते हैं, and of course that clubbed with other economic factors, for example
Hmm.
dollar rate fluctuation, fuel prices, so on and so
जी.
forth. So that of course makes it a bit difficult as well at times. But generally, I think Pakistan is amazing because of the population that it has and the
तो आपने अभी
dynamics that
बात
it
की
has
थी
in its
फ्यूल प्राइसेस
population.
में तब्दीलियां या डॉलर रेट में फ्लक्चुएशन, सो हाउ डज दैट इम्पैक्ट Yango's business?
So of course, it has a direct impact
Mm-hmm.
on your business because fuel price अगर ₹1 से या ₹2 से भी ऊपर जा रही है, which means कि
Mm-hmm.
your ride is getting expensive, right? So
Mm-hmm.
of course that requires us to be very vigilant in terms of and agile in terms of our
Mm-hmm.
policies, in terms of changes, marketplace changes, etc. So that's of course there. And with all of this, the idea always is to still ensure the maximum earnings for the drivers
Mm-hmm.
and best value for customers, however we can. Of course, everyone can, मतलब हर कोई खुश नहीं हो सकता, but the idea is to sort of balance out the value proposition on both sides as best as we can.
So currently, what is your biggest concern for 2025? The biggest challenge that you have on your desk, which you are sort of committed to figuring out? What would you say that would be? For Yango, from a country head perspective, what is the number one thing that your team and you are focused on for this year? Like, what is the sort of goal for this year?
So my goal for this year is to make Yango a household name,
जी.
which means that the next time you say that you are going somewhere, you say I'm getting a Yango rather than saying I'm getting a
Mm-hmm.
taxi or a car. And we're almost there, to be very honest. And other than
Really?
that, I want,
क्या आपने सुना है
yeah.
एनेक्डोटली किसी ने कहा कि हम यांगो बुला रहे हैं या यांगो कर रहे
Yeah, yeah,
हैं,
yeah.
एक्सेट्रा
Yeah,
एक्सेट्रा?
yeah. So Yango has become the surf excel. So like people don't say कि हमें detergent चाहिए, they say कि हमें surf
जी.
चाहिए, right? So
Exactly.
so we've seen that happen, and so that's one. And
Because एक
secondly, the
जमाने में
idea
it
is,
was like Kareem bulao, and have
yeah,
you
yeah,
seen
yeah.
that shift from that verb
Yes, we
usage?
have. Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yes, we have. And that is sort of supported and backed by a lot of data and market research that
जी.
we've done. So I can confidently say that we
Okay.
are the new Surf Excel for ride hailing. So that's one, of course. And then the other thing is we want the vision that sort of I'm working with is to have one app for most of your needs and requirements in a day, which means that we want to make Yango equipped with all those needs, or all the app touch points that you typically have in a day, which means you beef it up as much and as many services, and you just need to have one app for all your needs. So that's something that we are aggressively working towards. So we are moving towards a super app concept, building an ecosystem
Okay.
out of Yango, because Yango itself has like 70 odd businesses across the world, and it is just a matter for to bring them to Pakistan basis a product market fit. So that's
तो वो
something
वर्टिकल्स
that me
क्या
and my
लगती
team are
होंगी?
aggressively working towards.
जी, वो कौन, आप एग्जांपल्स दे सकती हैं उन वर्टिकल्स की?
So Yango has its own maps. Yango has its
जी.
own Spotify. Yango has its own Netflix. Yango has its
हम्म.
own Food Panda. So all of these services that for this you need to have like 5, 6
हम्म.
different apps in your phone. So we want to save that storage for you,
हम्म.
and we want to make sure that you have just one app, one touch point where you can sort of use anything or deliver or get
I guess आप
delivered to
नाज़रीन को बता सकते हैं which
the
market,
user.
which mature market already has this super app concept? Is there a current market?
Yes, there are a couple of them. The CIS markets,
Okay.
Uzbekistan, and all of these different markets, CIS, of course.
जी.
Then we have a couple of different services in UAE as well. Yango
Okay.
Play is really, really famous, where you see Arabic content,
हम्म.
specifically built for the UAE market. So UAE is one, and then there's the LATAM, a lot of different markets there.
हम्म.
So of course, it depends on whether the market is ready for that business to come in. And once we've figured that out, we are sort of
तो आपको
trying
लगता है is
to
Pakistan ready for that market yet? Ready for those
uh,
verticals yet?
yes. So
Okay.
as we speak, this year we've already launched B2B.
Mm-hmm.
That is one other service, and I think it really depends on how competitive the market is in that particular business. So that is some strategic element or some strategic decision making that you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Pakistan, with the internet penetration that we have, with the smartphone penetration that we have, and with the young population, that young demographic that we have,
जी.
I think there's a lot
जी.
of appetite for people to move towards these, apps, and I'm really hopeful that as and when they enter, they're going to do great in Pakistan.
In that vein, अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं, आपको आपके आपको ई वॉलेट और पेमेंट इंटीग्रेशन के बारे में आपका क्या नज़रिया है और आपका क्या आउटलुक है?
So digital payments is really close to my heart because
जी.
I, for one, am a completely cashless person. So that is something that we are
That's
working
very
on.
impressive in this economy.
Yes. Um, but we've done a lot of work on the driver side, and we are working towards digitizing payments between customers and drivers as well. So soon, inshallah, you'll see a lot of different updates coming in, and a lot of
जी.
comfort and convenience for customers.
Is there a particular timeline?
It's in the works, I'd say. So
Okay.
these things take time, but inshallah, within this year.
Why do you think Pakistan market में काम करने के लिए there's a stickiness in terms of cash payments? Why do you think that happens?
Um, I think it's because people just like to see or like to have a view of what all they
Mm.
have and how much of it they've used. Typically, when you're using cards, you don't know how, where your expense is
Mm.
going, because you're just sort of swiping the card left, right, and center. So I think that sense of control or that sense of staying within the budget is slightly
Mm-hmm.
compromised in digital payments, which is probably there in cash. And so that's one. Then a lot of our economy is unbanked, even though
जी.
the fintech industry has done beautifully over the years and has worked to sort of accommodate a lot of unbanked population, but that still is a challenge. We have a huge rural population, as well as people who are who are, I would call them, so we have the literacy rate is also not the best, which means that
Mm-hmm.
even with the smartphones and internet penetration, there's still an inertia for people to adopt these,
Ji.
fintech or digital payments. So I think that inertia is still there. We still have to do a lot of work on that, which is
Yeah.
why the card payments are still, but even now, if you go to a small Kiryana store or anywhere, yesterday I was probably, somewhere getting a photocopy done or maybe just buying fruits,
Ji.
and they had, these wallet details at the back that even if you don't have
Mm.
cash, you can transfer it. So which is convenient, which is good to see.
जी I guess I'm asking because एक तरफ Yango has ambitions for the super app and दूसरी तरफ it's still sort of figuring out the very basics of just cashless sort of payments. So how do you marry those two I guess problems or
Sure.
challenges?
So yeah, I think the difference that you see, or the gap that you see, is
जी.
only because of the phase that the business is in Pakistan. It's super,
Mm.
super new, naive, and all of these different things. They have a lot of technical, issues, or a technical setting that needs to be, sort of, or a footprint that needs to be built before you enable all of this. And we are working towards that. So I wouldn't really call it, a difference in what we're trying to achieve. It's just that we are getting there. It will take some time. So it's still like it's in the works. Things take time. A lot of regulatory or KYC, and all of these different requirements when you're
Yeah.
working with banks, when you're working with fintech. There are a lot of requirements that you need to fulfill. And while Yango is working with a startup mindset, so the speed that the business is growing
जी.
at and the speed that we have is not maybe matched by, all the different uh, players or components in the ecosystem for us to enable digital payments. So,
Mm.
so that's where I feel like, you may see that there's a difference, but the vision is completely aligned and the efforts are aligned too.
Could you speak a little bit more to Yango's interest in public-private partnerships?
Sure. So in this year alone, you would have seen a lot of different public-private partnerships that Yango has done. So it comes with a two-pronged approach. One is where you are standing with the government and with the regulatory authorities, to sort of show them that we are here to comply with you
Mm-hmm.
and to help you achieve your target, and to make sure that we are fully covered under your umbrella, right? So that is one aspect, which means we are proactive and we work actively towards collaborating with the government. And the second
Mm-hmm.
part is our commitment to security, which is one of the major areas where we've made like major headways in public-private partnership. So our aim to make sure that each and every Yango ride is safe, sort of
Mm-hmm.
also puts us in a good position to forge these public-private partnerships. I'll give you an example. So there's a lot of
जी.
work that, let's say, Yango is doing on its app, which means that it has a fully decked up safety center, which is
Mm-hmm.
again unprecedented. You won't see those features anywhere. You have the SOS button. You press that, you are connected to 1 5 immediately. So if you have any unfortunate situation, you can get help directly. You have the trusted contacts feature, so you don't have to share or put a contact every time. You just have that in the app. You click a button and the route details are shared. Again, very different
Mm-hmm.
from any other service. And with all of this, we also sort of started to work with the Punjab Safe City Authority in Lahore, where we, sort of want to work with them to make sure that all our drivers are verified. And
Mm-hmm.
there's some transparency and some verification done on the driver side. And same as with Islamabad. So there's a taxi verification system that we are,
Mm-hmm.
actively working on. In fact, Yango is in the forefront of that process and that activity, where we are making sure that all our cars have that QR code that people, when they're sitting into the car, can scan and verify that the ride is safe. So so which is why the
जी.
public-private partnership comes, in very handy with the goal that we have to stand with the government and to further our goal of having the safest rides. So I think it comes together very beautifully.
Thank you so much for that insight. Business Matters के इस एपिसोड में शामिल होने का शुक्रिया. A big thank you to our guests for joining us today, and join us next week as we continue to uncover Pakistan's business landscape. तब तक के लिए खुदाफिज.